Hey everybody, thanks for being here. We're going to start in just a minute. We're going to record this and post it, so hopefully you'll be able to look it up and see it again, and you'll be able to write down any of the notes and any of the websites that I put in here. So you should be able to watch those again later. While we wait for just another minute, please subscribe. You won't be able to post in the chat unless you have subscribed to the channel and then waited a minute. So you got to subscribe and then wait a minute. And then please like the video if you would like to see more, and like the video. That helps the algorithm for Facebook, and it also helps the algorithm if you make a comment. So once you've liked and subscribed, please consider making a comment if you feel like you've got valuable information from this video. Okay, so we're going to be talking today about Alabama tax lien certificates. My name is Greg Stanley, and I work in Alabama in a lot to do with Alabama tax lien certificates, Alabama tax deeds, Alabama tax certificates, Alabama property law, and Stanley Associates does all manner of closings. Most of our closings are for investors, but we can do all sorts of closings. There's a bunch of common misunderstandings about Alabama tax lien certificates. People come from Arizona and they have ideas, and they understand the previous laws and they think that those laws still apply, but in fact, that's not the case. So here's a quick list of things that are common misunderstandings about the Alabama tax lien system. But before we dive into those, I want to say, well, how do you even buy into Alabama tax investments? I want to cover a couple of things. The first thing is Alabama Department of Revenue has several $1 million worth of property that was sold at auction 5 years ago and previous. So think more than 5 years ago. And they have that property that was not sold at auction. So Alabama, the phrase we use in Alabama is they bid it in. They don't actually give any money to the county, but they bid it in, and then they're responsible for that property. Well, when they can't sell it, they do what's called a BPO, or a best price offer. A while back, they stopped doing the best price offers because they said they were going to do an auction. Now, the way the auction would work was it would be sort of like the Gubby's auction. We'll talk about the Gubby's auction in a minute. And you would be able to bid on them and buy them by, I'll give $500, I'll give $1,000, and it'll be an online auction, and it'll bid up. Well, instead of using software that's already available out there for auctions, the Jefferson County decided that, Alabama Department of Revenue decided they wanted to create a proprietary online auction system. Now, it's my understanding that you could just ask AI to do that, and Grok would have done it in 2 minutes, but that might not actually be the case. So they say that in spring of 2026, Alabama Department of Revenue will be able to auction off all of the property that is 5 years or longer since the auction at the county happened. Now you can buy non-tax lien certificates in Alabama. You can buy them from several different places. Rather than go through those now, I'm going to let you just see that YouTube video. If you skip to minute right there at number 2, if you skip to minute 1 minute 50 seconds, that's where you're going to see the list of all of the places where you can go right now and buy tax certificates and tax deeds, as opposed to tax lien certificates, which is what we're talking about today. So if you want to buy a tax lien certificate, you have to sign up at Gubby's. Gubby's is where Alabama, almost all of the counties in Alabama are selling their tax lien certificates. And again, we're going to talk about how those are different in just a moment. So you can go to that website right there, and you can get started. You can sign up. Mississippi has a bunch of auctions that are getting ready to happen right now. So when you sign up at Gubby's, and go ahead and do it now, it doesn't cost anything. So get yourself ready for next year or for whatever auctions you want to do. While you're there, poke about. You're going to find that there's a buttload of Mississippi auctions that are getting ready to take place. There's also a lot of information that you can get essentially for free by being a member of the Alabama Tax Lien Association, which is an investment group started about 10 years ago. And we created the group in order to prevent the fraud and the scams that were going along, where people were being sold. They thought they were buying tax deeds, they thought they were buying property, and in fact they were buying nothing. And so if you've listened to any of my videos, you'll probably have already heard me say, always use a closing agent or an escrow agent when you buy real property. If you're buying a tax deed, you're buying real property. So always use a closing agent and an escrow agent. Never give the money directly to your seller. Never allow the seller to touch the deed after you have paid for the deed. Make sure that you are responsible for getting it recorded and having that property assessed in your name. And remember, a good rule of thumb for non-lawyers, a good rule of thumb is a deed is not effective until it's recorded. Now, there are some nuances that lawyers out there will argue with me about. I am an Alabama lawyer. But for all effective purposes, for all operational aspects, a deed's not effective until it's been recorded. Your adverse possession time doesn't start. All these different things don't start until it's recorded, even if you have the deed, in your lockbox or whatever. Okay, so join the Alabama Tax Lien Association investment group. We have a meeting once a month. I think the dues are less than $20 a month. And we also have videos such as this. This video is sponsored by Alabama Tax Lien Association. And there are things that are Atlas only. So go ahead there and have a look. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about some of those common misunderstandings that have to do with lien certificates. Well, you cannot foreclose on a tax lien certificate the way you could foreclose on any other lien or judgment. There's nothing the same. It's kind of funny. You want to say, well, here's the things that are different. Well, everything is different. If you want to foreclose a tax lien certificate, compare it to foreclosing on an HOA lien or a mortgage foreclosure or a judgment, anything, nothing is the same. There are verbiage requirements that must be in a notice of a tax lien certificate foreclosure. Those requirements aren't in any other foreclosure requirement. There's actual notice requirements that you don't have for any other type of foreclosure. Who gets notice is different. When they get notice everything about notice is different. And what's really bad is that if you try to do this yourself and you do it wrong, when you get to the court, The judge is going to appoint a GAL, a guardian ad litem. They will appoint a guardian ad litem for all tax lien certificate foreclosures. And that guardian ad litem is going to point out if you didn't do any of the steps up to that point correctly, and the judge, by code, must dismiss the case. They cannot let you cure. They will dismiss it. You lost all that money. You have to pay the GAL, the guardian ad litem, for his time investigating it, finding that you didn't do it right, and then telling you. So you have to essentially start again. So if you're going to try to do this yourself, okay, we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. I'll give you some good advice on if you want to do this yourself. The actual plaintiff has to swear that notice requirements were met. You have to put that in your filing. If you don't have that in there, the judge will dismiss. You also have to file a quiet title concurrent with the foreclosure. And frankly, you probably should be filing an ejectment at the same time, because up to that point, by law, you have not been allowed to take possession of that property. That's different from the old Alabama system. The judge has to appoint an attorney to oppose you, and that attorney is the GAL. That attorney will probably demand a public auction. If I'm a guardian ad litem, if I'm assigned to be a guardian, I haven't been yet. Mostly I'm a guardian ad litem in Jefferson County, and we haven't had the law long enough to actually do one. Starting next year will be the earliest that you can do a tax lien foreclosure in Alabama, in Jefferson County. Well, if I'm appointed to be a guardian ad litem in a case like this, I'm here to tell you I'm going to demand a public auction, which is the right of any person opposing, any entity opposing the person trying to foreclose. And then you're going to have to advertise, and you're advertise, which is an expense. It's going to cost just as much as filing the lawsuit. And then you're going to have to pay someone to cry the auction. So the filing requirements are different. Evidence requirements are different. I mean, it's everything about it is different. I can't think of anything that's the same apart from the name. The next misunderstanding is people think that they can foreclose 4 years from the delinquent tax year. Okay, so they didn't pay their taxes in 2022. Let's say 2021. They didn't pay their taxes in 2021. Well, if they didn't pay their taxes in 2021, since taxes in Alabama are paid in arrears, the tax lien sale will not be until 2022. That's the date that we use. It's 4 years from the date of the auction. Well, if they didn't pay their taxes in 2021, the auction was in 2022. The first time that you can do the sale will be on the 4th anniversary in 2026. I've given you the code right there on the page, right here on this slide, if you want to go ahead and look that up. It's the first sentence of 4010-197. Anytime not less than 4 years after the auction or the tax official's sale of the tax lien. So 4 years from the date of the sale, not from when it went delinquent. Another common misunderstanding, for example, Alabama is like fill in the blank, name some state. It's not like any other state. Alabama's convoluted system, it's very particular, it's convoluted, it's more like the IRS code than it's like any other state's tax lien laws. I like to use the analogy of Frankenstein. You know, in the movies, whenever they create a Frankenstein's monster, they always seem to get the ugliest parts. You know, this big ugly head, and the shoulders usually do this, and the big feet, and you know, it's just a mess. And you know, I always wonder, why don't they get an attractive body to be the Frankenstein? Well, they don't. And I guess when Alabama put together their tax lien law, they went out to Arizona, chose the worst bit from Arizona. They went to Georgia, chose the worst part of the Georgia law. Went to Florida, chose the worst part of the Florida law. Now, those are parts that I've identified. I don't know where else they got their parts, but they took the worst, the ugliest face they could find, the ugliest body they could find, and created this law. If you want to read more about it, go to that right there. That's an article that I wrote. It's at www.stanley-law.com, And when you go to that page, look to the articles, or if you can click this link, you can go to that link. If you're enjoying this content, if you feel like you're getting anything out of it, please like and subscribe. That will make it not only so that you get to know that more things are happening, but it'll also make it so that I'm incentivized to actually create more of these. All right, so back to the common misunderstandings. A person who buys a tax lien certificate does not have any legal right in the property. Nothing. You have less right than a mortgagee. A mortgagee can't come on the property and cut the grass if the city puts a lien, city says, hey, we're going to put a lien on this. The mortgagee doesn't have a right to go on there and cut the grass. Neither do you. All property rights remain with the last deeded owner, not with the last person that it was assessed to, but with the last deeded owner. Purchase of the tax lien certificate conveys no rights apart from earning interest and the future possibility of foreclosing, not the future right to foreclose, because you don't have a right to foreclose at any point. Frankly, anybody who has any sort of legal interest in the property, mortgagee, the bank, a former owner, or rather an owner, the owner's kid, anybody who claims they have a right to the property can redeem it. So you don't have a right to foreclose. You have the opportunity, maybe the possibility that you're going to be able to foreclose. You literally have less rights than a mortgagee. Here's the biggest common misunderstanding that I bump into. You will never get a tax deed. This never turns into a deed. I probably a couple times a week, I see posts online or people come to me and they DM me or they email me and they say, hey, I bought this tax certificate in 2022. That means that I can foreclose it now. When do I get my tax deed? Okay, everything about that sentence is wrong. You bought it in 2022, you can't foreclose it now, and you're never going to get a tax deed. Under the old system, Montgomery is still using, Montgomery is one of our largest counties in Alabama. It's a great place to buy and invest in tax deeds and tax certificates. Now, I say tax certificates, that's a different thing from a tax lien or a tax lien certificate, okay? So Montgomery County is a great place, and we've got several other counties that are currently using the old system, and I hope they do. I hope they continue to use the old system. It's a better system. It's better for the community. It's better for the former owners or the owners. It's better for the investors. Everything about it is better. I can't come up with anything that is better about the new system than the old system. So you have to foreclose, and then you would get a clerk's deed. If you're successful in foreclosure, it'll never mature into a tax deed like it would under the old system on the 3rd anniversary. People make a big deal. They're like, oh, you've got to foreclose within 10 years. Well, okay, so that if you hit the 10-year mark, then the 10-year-old tax certificate, you can no longer foreclose on it, but then you could just foreclose on the next one, the one that's only 9 years old. So if you've paid the taxes on every year, you're not actually really losing anything other than opportunity if you roll over the 10th year. Now, keep in mind, this law's not old enough for us to know this. It's never gone before a judge. But the plain reading of the law, if you have a 9-year-old tax certificate, you can foreclose, regardless of whether you have one that's older than that. It doesn't, proactively destroy all future tax lien certificates that you're holding just because the 10th one expired. Okay, so again, it never becomes a deed. Another common misunderstanding, and Gadsden is just always stepping in it. They are just always stepping in it. This is the 4th time I know that Gadsden City is being sued. Fourth time that I know about City of Gadsden going to be sued. If there's if they want to put a weed lien on the property, then the city can do that. And you, as a tax lien certificate holder, have no right of possession. You have no right to go on that property and cut the grass. Now, if you were to trespass and do it, I don't think anybody's going to get onto you, but you don't have a legal right or obligation to do that. Now, since you don't have a right to cut the lawn, you're certainly not going to be reimbursed for cutting the lawn if the property is redeemed. So it's really not in an investor's interest. I mean, there may be some circumstances where it would be, but as a rule of thumb, there's no reason to cut the grass. Just let the lien accrue. Just let the city lien get put on the property. And then when you foreclose, name the city and pay them off to get rid of that lien. Now, Gadsden, again, has gone out and they have demolished the property. Well, the problem is that they didn't notify the mortgagee or the tax lien certificate holder that they were going to demolish the property. Now, while it's true that these entities don't have any possessory right in the property, they do have some interest in the property. And if the city is going to demolish the property under the authority of law, under the authority of being a municipality, and they don't notify people who have an interest in that property, they know they just bought a lawsuit. So, and I've already seen this once, and we're about to see, I mean, in my firm, we've seen it once, and we're about to see it again in my firm. And I know of 2 other cases that we found in the records. You research what other people did to see if you can improve on what they did. But you can't stop, you're not going to be able to stop them from demolishing the structure, especially if they don't give you notice that that's what they're planning to do. Okay, common misunderstanding. I can file the foreclosure myself. First, most people who invest in land invest in the name of an LLC. If you invest in the name of an LLC, then you can't file the foreclosure yourself, because that's drafting legal documents, and the law says you can. If you draft legal documents for your own, you can't draft anything for a certificate, then you would be able to foreclose on it. You could file it yourself. Add to that, in order to maintain a lawsuit, you can have your LLC. You simply can't try. Let me quickly, and if you are operating on a lawsuit, you can't file a lawsuit and prosecute a lawsuit in the state of Alabama unless your entity has been registered. Myself. Second, if you have no name, you should at a minimum get Denise Evans' course. She has a course on this topic. And Denise Evans has a bunch of courses. You should go to Butler Evans Education right now. Get some of her free stuff. It's really, really valuable stuff. She not only does a lot of good stuff, has a lot of good information for landlords. For tax lien stuff, tax deed stuff, but also for landlords. She's got some really good stuff for landlords. I don't know if she has anything free for landlords, but she does have some free stuff for airship and for, like that. So go look at that free information out there. Make yourself smart. But even then, you should hire an attorney that's in this area for the very first one that you're going to do. So if you're going to do this, at least watch your attorney do the first one, and then make a decision on whether or not you want to risk it just being dismissed because you absolutely failed to do something. In case you're wondering what this is, I have my fireplace on in my television, and that's the flicker of the fireplace. Okay, so those are the things that I wanted to mention today. I was trying to keep this under 30 minutes. It looks like I'm going to be able to do that. I wanted to mention, feel free to contact me, Gregory at stanley-law.com. You can read more of the stuff that I've written at www.stanley-law.com. And then when you get there, look at the banner over on the right at the articles. Next, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe. And it helps my algorithm if you make a comment. So please go ahead and make a comment on this video, whether you're watching it live with me right now. And if you are watching it live with me right now, I'm going to take any questions that you post in the chat right now. I'll give you a minute to subscribe, then you can ask your questions. And But if you want to go back and watch this, it's going to be under live on my YouTube channel, and eventually it'll make it over to the videos section as well. So please remember that even though I am an attorney, I'm not your attorney, and you should not take advice from the internet. Don't take legal or financial advice from the internet, and please remember that no representation is made that any legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services performed by other Alabama lawyers. Okay, so I'm seeing some comments. Thank you so much for the comments, the likes, and the thumbs ups. I really appreciate those. And I'm not seeing any questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me, Gregory at stanley-law.com. Thank you so much.